All right, Shalom to the elect of Israel, to the hopeful elect of Israel, you Hebrew Israelites, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, West Indians, and Haitians, and the foreign Israelites that look like the other nations, scattered across the four corners of the earth. First and foremost, we're going to face the east and give all praises to Baruch Yahweh, Baruch Yahweh Shah, Baruch Yahweh, Baruch Yahweh Shah. Got to give all praises to Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah, Ba'ashem Rakah Akwadah. Want to give double honors to the elders and apostles, a great millstone who led me to this truth and been ordained by the Lord to teach the flock how to live, repent, pray, fast, and show forth the Lord's righteousness and mercy, judgment, forgiveness, and wrath to all those who are part of the elect and to the hopeful elect. Lord willing, we be part of that number. Lord willing, this be edifying to those who fear in the name of the Lord and are striving to show forth the Lord's righteousness every day to the best of his abilities. To the best of our abilities, Salakia. His judgment always comes to light. Zephaniah, chapter 3, verse 5. And is not slack. 2 Peter, chapter 3, verse 9. So the Lord blessed me with another stand. So I'm able to make a video where I'm not so close. So Salakia, for the last videos of me being so close, that was all I had at the time. To still be able to achieve the work of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah. Today, I'm here to continue the lesson that I received from the elders and apostles of Great Millstone. This is part 4 of 2nd Esdras, chapter 11. So Lord willing, just be edifying to the flock. So to make sure, oh, Shalom, Shalom. That's one of the big bros. Shalom. Follow Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah, Ba'ashem Rakah, that's part of the thumb. The water for tuning in. The water for tuning in. I've learned a lot from your lessons. So the water for everything you do for Israel. Water. Like I said, hey, if you can't hear me too good, let me know. You know, it's kind of windy out here today, so I'm gonna have to be kind of loud. So I'm gonna get back into the lesson. Shalom, shalom. So I want to get back into the lesson, and I'm gonna start off. I might start off a little earlier. It might be a little earlier from where I was at, but I'm gonna start where I was talking about the Idumean antipation. The antipater of the Idumean was Herod's father. In 113 AD to 114 BCE to 43 BCE, he got his way in being a counselor and a governor under Hyrcanus the second. That was his father. This is how you know Esau Edom is still here, and the book of Obadiah has not been fulfilled. The book of Obadiah was written in 586 BC, around the 9th century. The Idumeans were still around almost 500 years later. Around 4 BC, that was one of the times that these 12 feathers, which are the 12 emperors of Rome, who ruled with an iron fist. So for it to be 400 years later, to be around 500 years later, that's how we know that they still exist. But there's also scripture that say that Amalek shall rule, we shall battle Amalek from generation to generation. We have been battling these demons this whole time, the same ones. We are back here again to fight for Yahweh Shah, So we're going to read Revelations, chapter 6, verse 5. Revelations, chapter 6, verse 5. And it reads, and when he had opened the third seal, I heard the third beast say, come and see. And I beheld, lo, a black horse, and that black horse is death. And he that sat on him had a pair of balances in his hand. So the sword was given unto Esau Edom, and it was meant for them to kill each other. But it was also to punish Israel for them disobeying Yahweh Shah. He wanted to kill Jacob, but he had to wait until after Isaac, who we know, who are deep in this truth, is Yahweh Shah. Because only Yahweh Shah can give you the fatness of the earth. Only Yahweh Shah can give blessings. And Jacob and Esau both received blessings. So that's how we know that was Yahweh Shah. And if you also read in Colossians, it talks about he is the first of all principalities. That's why we know we are battling the same principalities, the same people of Amalek, the first descendants of Esau. They are back again to plague Israel, but to be destroyed for what they have done. So he made it to where their sword would kill themselves. And they did. During the Roman Empire, they killed each other. And guess what's going to happen this time? They're going to kill each other with the sword. And we're going to watch, Lord willing. Lord willing, we're not taken out through the famine, or through the pestilence, or through the noisome beast, or the sword, which are the four sword judgments that the four angels are holding in the four corners of the earth to unleash on the wicked. So just like Julius Caesar, his two closest friends had killed him with the sword. And that stigma stuck with them throughout their kingdom and till today. So we're going to go back to the 12 feathers. We had Titus, which was the 11th feather. And then Domitian, I think it's Domitian. So lucky if I said that wrong. So I want to make sure I'm not going too far. Yeah, I'm in the right place. I'm pretty sure I'm in the right place. But if not, Lord willing, I can correct it in the next lesson. But I'm pretty sure that's where I was left off. Salakia. Okay. Okay, so Augustus, he ruled the longest, which is 44 years. And that's right, I'm a little bit ahead. I'm a little bit behind. So it talks about 2nd Esdras, chapter 11, verse 2. It's better to be me a little bit behind in it than forward, because I just want to make sure I get the truth across. It's not about our feelings. It's about waking up the elect of Israel. That's what we're here for. And I was listening to a lot of Akim, a lot of big brothers in this truth. And over this week, they have been talking about, if you're going to say you love Yahweh Shem Shai, you need to be drawing your sword whenever you are able. That is the reason why we are here. If you are a man who believes in this truth, if you are not lifting up your sword, then what is the point of wanting to be in the spiritual military of Great Millstone or even cling to Great Millstone? That is what they're looking for. They are looking for laborers. We are supposed to labor in this doctrine. So this is 2nd Esdras, chapter 11, verse 2. And it reads, and I saw and behold, she spread her wings all over the earth. All of the winds blew, all the winds of the air blew on her and were gathered together. Lakia, give me one moment. Bear with me. Make sure I'm on track. Okay. Yeah, 2nd Esdras, chapter 11, verse 2. The winds, they represent the nations that were under their influence at the time. Rome ruled the known world at that time. Obviously, this part of the earth wasn't known well. It wasn't ruled at that time. You know, it wasn't incredibly inhabited yet by those heathens. But the northern kingdom was here. But this is really talking about Asia Minor, parts of Africa and Saudi, and the Saudi, the nations like the Saudi Arabia tribes, you know, the nations that were under their influence. And I'm pretty sure I'm a little bit further than this after thinking about it. So I don't want to speed up by accident. I'm going to stick where I'm at. So 2nd Esdras chapter 11 verse 3. I know a lot of brothers got work today, so the water for tuning in, the water for coming and dwelling with Yahweh Shem Shai, you know, and us exalting his name together whenever you get the chance. So the water for tuning in. So verse 3, and I beheld, and out of her feathers there grew other contrary feathers, and they became little feathers and small. This is going to expound on those contrary little feathers that become small as we go on. 2nd Esdras, chapter 11, verse 4, and it reads, "For her heads were at rest. The head in the midst was greater than the other, yet rested with the residue. When you go into these three heads, which will be expounded later on in the chapter, you know, especially in this chapter 11 and 12, it's a deeper breakdown of it, but we're going to just deal with 11. It talks about the 12 feathers, 2 wings, and 3 heads. Those 3 heads go into the 12 feathers. There's not any more than 12 feathers. There was only 12 rulers, and they came and they went. It was all to be fulfilled for prophecy. So when they came back in the time of America, Babylon the Great, it was them serving out their judgment for what they did to Israel at that time. Because what you do is you go to the throne of Yahweh Shemel, and he says, well, you have to come back and you have to be judged for what you have done. And for what they did in this time to Israel, that is what they're paying for. So Julius Caesar represents the head in the middle. Then you had Pompey and you had Crassus. Okay? So all of these heads had a role of transition of the Roman Republic to the Roman Empire. You got to remember, Esdras is writing about this 500 years before it came to pass. Just like now, our elders and apostles of the Great Millstone have been speaking of the destruction of this place in the 60s. And it's going to come to pass. But they said that he was shorting the time. That's how we know it's not going to take 1,000 years this time for Rome to fall. It's going to take a very short time, which is very soon. Lord willing, by 2025, we're out of here. According to Apostle Our, because certain prophecies still need to come to pass. So they were called the first triumphant. When you look that up, the definition is a formed alliance among 3 prominent politicians in the late Roman Republic. The Constitution of the Roman Republic was a complex set of checks and balances. America, Babylon the Great has checks and balances. They are picking up these customs from what they once knew. These are the same people. That's why they favored these ways. They wouldn't if they didn't like it last time. It said what had been done once in Ecclesiastes. In Ecclesiastes chapter 1 verse 9, what has been done once will be done again. So that's how we know these are the same spirits coming back and saying, hey, we like this. We want to do it this way. We want to oppress the people. And it was also designed to prevent men from rising from the rest and creating a monarchy. A monarchy is one king, and then the son will rule after it. You know, most people know that. We learned that in school. You know, lineage. And that's even another cut for those who literally had an Edomite try to say that the women can have seed. Well, if they had the woman that can have seed, then a monarchy, they would give it to the daughter. But they don't give it to the daughter. They give it to the son because they're the ones who carry the seed, the lineage. The purpose of the triumphant wasn't really written down. It was an understanding that they had, and Julius Caesar was the leader of the armies. Okay? And I'm pretty sure I went back into this in my last lesson. We're going to go down a little bit. I'm starting to remember a little bit. Yep. Because I went down the first Maccabees, chapter 8, verse 15, and it talks about how, in my last video that I did, it talks about they had a council of 320, okay, men. So I'm going to speed up a little bit. And we're going to go to 2nd Esdras, chapter 11, verse 4. I just wanted to make sure I didn't go too far. I'd rather be behind so we can catch up. I got a little bit of time today. I got to be be at the plantation at 5, but I got a little bit of time today. So this is verse 4, and it reads, but her heads were at rest. The head in the midst was greater than the other, yet it rested with the residue. So this is speaking of Julius Caesar. He was stronger than the rest of the feathers. That's why he was ruling. And when you look it up in the dictionary, when you look it up in the encyclopedia, or you look at it in Wikipedia, it shows you that all that truth was there. It was right there. You know, the Bible is a history book. It's written for a time for our learning, to know who our enemy was, to remember, hey, these are not your people. We're against these people. Verse 5, and it reads, moreover, beheld, and lo, an eagle flew with her feathers, and rained upon the earth, and over them that dwelt therein. They ruled over the whole known world at that time. The beast system was called the Vasile. Okay, at that time. Then America, Babylon the Great, reiterated it back to this system. Okay, because they're the same people back. That's why I said in Ephesians chapter 6, verse 12, that we don't battle against flesh and blood. We battle against high wickedness in spiritual places. You know, this is the same people back that he has visited through the 3rd and 4th generation. So we're going to go to verse 6. And it reads, and I saw that all things under heaven were subject unto her, and no man spake against her, no, not one creature upon the earth. They had so much influence, no one spoke against the Roman Empire. And America, Babylon the Great was a time like that too. Nobody spoke against this place for a time being. But now they're standing up. Now the other nations are standing up. Now they're getting back. And the Lord, he makes the movies. And there's a movie, you should go watch it if you haven't watched it. It's called The Call of the Wild. And it's about this dog named Buck. And Buck gets separated from his Edomite family. And he ends up being a slave dog. He ends up being a slave. But he becomes strong. He learns things through that struggle. And there was one of them that was ahead of them in the pack. Okay? And the head of them in the pack was a wolf. But the wolf was always real mean to the other animals. Okay? And in the Bible, the wolf represents the sea hill. Okay? And there's a wolf coming. And we're trying to warn the sheep. There's a wolf coming. And this wolf was trying to attack the true shepherd. And the Lord came through him through the harbor, through the Rakah HaKodash, which was the, you know, because it says be as wise as a serpent and humble as a dove. Well, this wolf would always come into the spirit to Buck and say, no, Buck up against him. Get back at him. Fight him. And so Buck started fighting him, and he beat him. So then the other animals started clinging to him and started learning from him. And he ended up running the pack in the end. So that's what we're doing. You know, we are the least of this place. And we are getting back up, starting with our elders and apostles of Great Millstone, and we are fighting the wolf, saying we ain't gonna buck up, we ain't gonna back down. We're gonna fight. You know, that's what we're doing out here in the highways and the byways. We're fighting this wolf. We're fighting these demons. While everybody else is like, what are they doing? Not of course, the hopeful elect, they're not doing that. They understand because the Lord wants them to understand. And that's why he said, don't work too hard for these 2/3, because they're not supposed to understand. So Daniel 7 speaks of a beast having iron teeth. And they subdued the nations. Okay, the Lord gave them that power because we sinned against them. Daniel also talked about how the world would rule, how they would rule the world, the basis of men. Okay, and how we know that is because Esau Edom was blessed with the sword. And we know that he was reincarnated as Cain, coming from Cain. That's why it said that to avenge Lamech, which was, you know, Cain's son, Lamech to be avenged, it would be 70-fold. Because he would come back as Esau and Edom, and we would be under him. And he was able to punish us through his laws and his philosophies, through the sword. So it all fits together. It has to make sense. So you got these people out here talking about, oh, well, what about Japheth? Well, he's not ruling the world right now. He doesn't have 1,000 bases that all are based off of a Roman Catholic dogma. Okay, they make up ways to have wars. So this is Daniel chapter 2, verse 40. So this is Daniel chapter 2, verse 40. And it reads, and the fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron, for as much as iron breaketh in pieces, that subdueth all things, and iron that breaketh all these, shall it break in pieces and bruise. So I remember I read about this. Okay. So we were talking about, in the last video I did, it was talking about that iron has to be made a certain way. So we're gonna keep going down a little bit. Salakia, we're starting back so far. You know, we only had 30 minutes, so that's good. We got a little recap. You know, it's always good to go over things, maybe sometimes more than once. The Lord's making me do it. So this is 2nd Esdras, chapter 11, verse 7. And it reads, and behold, and I beheld, and lo, the eagle rose up upon her talons, and spake to her feathers, saying, so it spake to her feathers, saying, verse 8, watch not all at once, sleep everyone in his own place, and watch my course. But let the heads be preserved for the last. So basically, the Lord reserved each one for their specific time to rule. So it would match with prophecy, Shalom. So it would match with prophecy. You know? So it's saying that all couldn't rule at one time. It was all ordained to be this way. When it said for them to sleep, it was for them to stay down until it was their time to rule. So now we're going to go to verse 10 and 11. And it reads, and behold, and I beheld, and lo, the voice went not out of her heads, but from the midst of her body. And I numbered her contrary feathers, and behold, there were 8 of them. This was the 8 feathers, but it was talking about those were 8 of the 12. These contrary feathers were also mentioned at the beginning of the chapter. These are the small feathers. These are talking about the Roman rulers that did not rule as long as the 4 other feathers. They ruled a very short time. So this is verse 12. And it reads, and I looked, and behold, On the right side, there rose one feather and reigned over all the earth. And so it was that when it rained, let me stop at 13 real quick and explain it. These were the set rulers to rule in their particular time. So basically, that's all I was talking about. They were set to rule for a specific amount of time. So now we're going to go to verse 13, and it reads, and so it was that when it rained, the end of it came, and the place thereof appeared no more. So the next following stood up and reigned and had a great time. Okay, so verse 12 and 13. Verse 12 is basically talking about Julius Caesar, and also talking about Augustus right after that. And they ruled the longest out of the 12 feathers. The other feathers didn't even last half of that time. And that's how connected it is with the scriptures. Okay? You know, that was unheard of at that time. And this is a verse that's going to show another custom that this place has taken that the Roman Empire last time did. Because this Roman Empire is the little horn. And when you look in the prophecy, the little horn is the one right before Yahushua comes back. So that's how we know we're in the end times. So we're going to go to Luke. We're going to stay on track. We're going to do Luke. We're going to do Luke. Chapter 2, verse 1. And it reads, and it came to pass in those days that there went out a decree from Caesar Augustus that all the world should be taxed. And that's how America Babylon the Great does now. They tax everybody. That's why a lot of these nations are trying to leave this system. They are tired of paying their percentage to the so-called white man. It's unfair and it is unjust. So like I said, it talks about Caesar Augustus taxed the whole world, just like America Babylon the Great. This chapter was written 400 years before Caesar Augustus was even born. Apostle Gabar said they take note of who was and who was there, who was going to get money from, who they were going to get money from at the first of the month. This is where you get the term calendar from. And what do we use here? We use calendars. So it's the same system. Goes back to the word in ancient Rome, Millennium. I think that's how you say that. You know, they entered in the names of their debtors, you know, in sums which those debtors owe, which they do till today. You know? interest on borrowed money on the first of the month. And we know month means moon. So that's how we know the beginning of our months start with the new moon. And March was the first year. You got these camps like IUIC, they base their months off the Gregorian calendar, which is they start their month in January. That's a simple enough way to know that these are not the men of the Lord. So this is why a lot of people who have those government jobs, they get paid on the 1st and the 15th. So now we're going to do Daniel chapter 7, verse 7. So this is Daniel chapter 7, verse 7, and it reads, after this I saw in the night visions, and behold, a fourth beast, that's the Roman Empire, dreadful and terrible and strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth. It devoured and brake in pieces, and stepped the residue with the feet of it. And it was diverse, all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. Those are the EU nations, the original United Nations. And that's why you got some of our people who are like, well, why y'all deal with the Apocrypha? Look how closely connected it is, you know? It's very well connected. It matches. That's how we know we're able to use it, because it links into prophecy. So the fourth beast was the Roman Empire, the Iron Monarchy. And the other little horn was talking about America, Babylon the Great. Right after the judgment of the kingdoms come. You know? Or right before the judgment of the kingdoms, the little horn, which is right now. Now we're going to go to 2nd Esdras, chapter 11, verse 14. And it reads, and it happened, and when it rained, the end of it came also, like as the first, so that it appeared no more. So just like Julius Caesar's rule happened and was no more, Augustus ruled for 44 more years, and after that, he didn't rule no more. Then Tiberius, the third feather, came. So now we're going to read verse 15. And it reads, then came there a voice unto it and said, hear thou that the last born rule over the earth so long. That's how we know he's talking about Augustus. This I say unto thee, before thou beginnest to appear no more. This is still talking about the second feather, Augustus, who bare rule over the earth so long. Then we're going to read verse 17. There shall none after thee attain unto thy time, neither unto the half thereof. See how he said that he wouldn't do half the time. Just like the scripture said. Tiberius was close, which he ruled for 23 years, but the other feathers didn't even rule anywhere around that long. So that's how we know it's not talking about actual feathers. It's talking about rulers. Okay? And like we said, that third ruler ruled for 23 years. So now we're going to go to verse 19. So it went with all the residue, one after another, that everyone arranged and then appeared no more. So they had their time to live and rule. And then it was done. Verse 20. And beheld, and lo, in process of time, the feathers that followed stood up upon the right side, that they might rule also. And some of them ruled, but within a while, they appeared no more. This is talking about the first 6 feathers. Slakia. It's talking about the first rule with the first 6 feathers. They had their time to rule, and then the second feathers had their time to rule, and then they appeared no more. This is verse 22 or verse 21. And it reads, for some of them were set up, but ruled not. After this I looked, and behold, the 12 feathers appeared no more, nor the 2 little feathers. And there was no more upon the eagle's body, but the 3 heads that rested, and 6 little wings. Even those 3 heads represented the feathers, which is those first 3 feathers we talked about in the first triumphant. So it's a very detailed understanding of what the Lord was telling Daniel, what was going to happen, and he was breaking it down to Esdras. This is verse 24, and it reads, then saw I also that 2 little feathers divided themselves from the 6 and remained under the head that was upon the right side. For the 4 continued in their place. These were the 3 heads, like we said, first triumphants. Then when you go into the 3 heads, that was the start of the Flavian dynasty. Okay? Flavians, basically means blonde. And didn't they always say, the blonde hair, blue-eyed Edomites, they're Idumeans. They're not white. You know, and not all of them are like that, but that was that was what they thought was the chosen race of the Lord. But it was the exact opposite. It was black hair and Judite men, so-called Negroes. Okay, and it said the devil is opposite from the Lord. So it's just even more proof that those are not the Lord's chosen people. So these feathers are basically the same spirits of Amalek. You know, the first descendants of Esau, who ruled the world and are back ruling the world again, because it happened once, it's gonna happen again. So Lord willing, my phone ain't heating up. It's starting to look like it's heating up a little bit. Let me know if I'm having some issues, if it's blanking out too much. Might try to see if I can put it in some shade somehow. So okay, so now, and when it talks about it's an eagle, and we know over here on the dollar it's got an eagle, just like America Babylon the Great. Prophetically, this is Esau, Edom, the so-called white man. Get the water. Okay? And there was a book, and Salaki, if I say this wrong, it's called the Medians Jewish Quidditch. Okay, it goes into the things that apply to ancient kingdoms. And there was a page that was titled The Princes of Edom. It called Titus the Princes of Edom. They are Edomites until they mix with the other nations. Nobody says the tail, but by through the spirit. That's why it says the Lord says to test the spirits. Because everywhere this place Babylon, which means confusion. We don't know who's who. So we have to go by the spirit. So this is second Esdras, chapter 11, verse 25. And it reads, and I beheld, and lo, the feathers that were under the wing thought to set up themselves and to have room. These emperors, we're talking about the ones that were very short. Those were the first three of the very short in the year of the four emperors, is what those are talking about. You know? One of them ruled 7 months, the second one ruled 8 months, and the other one only ruled 1 month. Okay? And those three feathers make sure those three brothers was Galba, Otho, and Vitellius. Okay, and Vespasian was the head of them, was that fourth feather. Everyone's talking about that fourth feather, but that fourth feather is actually Julius Caesar being reincarnated. Okay, to fulfill that time where the siege of Jerusalem, or how they say over here, Jerusalem, we say Jerusalem, is how that place was taken over. You know, after the burning of Rome. I don't want to get too far into it. I want to stay on track. So now, that time was the Flavian dynasty. Okay, they ruled the Roman Empire from 69 AD to 96 AD, surpassing the reigns of Vespasian, which is 69 to 79 AD. And his two sons, Titus, from 79 to 81 AD, and then Domitian, 81 to 96 AD, which spanned out the rest of that dynasty. Okay, the Flavians rose to power during the Civil War of 69. And the same thing happened here. We had a civil war, and one part of this country rose to power. You know, they had the Republicans and the Democrats. One of them rose to power. They had the Flavians and the Patricians last time. One of them rose to power. It's the same story, but it's two different instances. But one of them is like, I'm gonna have you do the same thing so you can be judged according to what you did last time and that time. That's why I said that their sins will be accounted for double. You see? They're gonna get double because what? They plagued us twice. You know? Two Roman empires who did our people wrong. Dramatically, drastically. So after Galba and Otho, lucky if I said that wrong, died, in quick succession. Vitellius became emperor in mid 69. His claim to the throne was quickly challenged, and it was challenged by basically the eastern provinces, who declared their commander Vespasian emperor in his place. There was a lot of betrayal in that time. But you remember we talked about how he used that black horse to make them kill each other. That sword. He made them go against each other, just like they doing now. They going against each other. So the second battle is Bedrosium. That's how you say that. Like if I said that wrong. Tilt the balance decisively in favor of the Flavian forces, who entered Rome on the 20th of December, the following day of the Roman Senate officially being declared Vespasian. They officially declared Vespasian the emperor of the Roman Empire. Titus commencing the Flavian dynasty. Although the dynasty proved to be short-lived, several significant historic, economic, and military events took place during their reign. So this is verse 26 and verse 27. So it says, and whereas thou sawest that the great head appeared no more, it signifieth that one of them shall die upon his bed and remain, for the two that remain shall be slain. So this is still talking about those first three rulers in the Flavian dynasty. So verse 28, it reads, for the sword of the one shall devour the other, but the last shall he fall through the sword himself. When you look in the history of these men, it happened the same way the word said, 500, 400 years before it happened. This is prophecy, inspired by Yahweh Shah, the Ancient of Days, first and foremost, which is Yahweh. So this is 2 Peter, chapter 1, verse 20. This is 1 Peter, chapter 1, verse 20. Salaki. So 1 Peter chapter 1 verse 20, and it reads, who verily was foreordained before the foundation of the world, but was manifest in these last times for you, who by whom do believe in power, which is Yahweh, that raised him up from the dead and gave him glory, that your faith and hope might be in power, which is Yahweh. This all happened for our hope, for us to know that Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushua is in control. So I really wanted to make this lesson about 2 hours, but you know, the Lord's putting the spirit on me to kind of go back and get some news articles ready. And I'm going to do those news articles when I get off work, Lord willing. You know, I want to kind of have a balance. And today's kind of like a pre-camp day. And tomorrow, Lord willing, I can finish tomorrow. It's going to be raining a little bit. So Lord willing, you know, I have the times and means to be able to execute and get through the rest of this lesson. So Lord willing, let's edify into the block. First and foremost, want to face the east. Give all praise to Baruch Yahweh. Baruch Yahweh Shah. Baruch Yahweh. Baruch Yahweh Shah. Baruch Yahweh. Baruch Yahweh Shah. Gotta give all praise to Yahweh. I want to give double honor to the elders and apostles and great millstones. Let me to the truth has been ordained by the Lord. Teach the flock how to live, repent, pray, fast, and show forth the Lord's righteousness. And mercy, judgment, forgiveness, and wrath to all those who are part of the elected to the hopeful elect. Lord willing, will be part of that number. Lord willing, let's be edifying to those who fear in the name of the Lord and striving to show forth the Lord's righteousness every day to the best of their abilities. His judgment always comes to light. Zephaniah chapter 3, verse 9, and it's not slack. Zephaniah chapter 3, verse 5, Salakia, and it's not slack. 2 Peter chapter 3, verse 9, so ball. I'm out of this world, Jacob. It's time to go home. We want to wake up and get out of here. You know, it's ultimately the Lord's time. But the quicker we wake up, the quicker we get sealed, Lord willing, we part of that number, we can get out of here and go live forever together. Be happy, man. We hate this place. So, Shalom.